Shalom, Israel. This is the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Start out of One West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. This is the Lashawan Qadash class where we break down we break down our culture and identity from a linguistic perspective. I mean, we've been teaching Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans the truth according to the Bible since 1969. I mean, if you are not in the ISUPK, you are not in the truth. I mean, if you leave, uh, I mean, if you find the truth, but then you leave where the truth was established and to do your own thing, you're not in the truth. Now you've deviated from the foundation of where it all began. So you can't possibly be in the truth if you're not in the ISBK. But we've been teaching Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans our true culture and identity since 1969. Tonight is the Lashawan Qadash class, which means holy tongue in the Hebrew, or you know what I mean. This is the language that the Bible, the Old Testament was written in, and even in the New Testament, even the New Testament was written in Greek, but it was written from the perspective of a Hebrew speaking people. You know what I mean? It was written from the perspective of their culture. So in order for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to fully understand what the Bible is talking about, you have to understand the Hebrew and the spirit behind the Hebrew. That's why we teach this class. You know what I mean, weekly, week in and week out. I mean, you got any questions online, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. Got any questions in the room, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get them answered. Any Hebrew related questions for tonight. That is, this class is typically to prepare. You know what I mean? Ideally to prepare brothers and sisters for the Sabbath service. Not only to get you to understand the language and the culture that's within the Bible, but to also prepare brothers and sisters for Sabbath service, because as we do weekly, we do a weekly Sabbath service where we go into the Bible, read the Bible in the Hebrew, and read it in the English as well, and then break it down from Genesis to I believe the entire Old Testament. You know what I mean? But we go in a Bible Hub. If you don't have Bible Hub, you go ahead and download Bible Hub or open up Bible Hub. Typically, we go into the specific scriptures that we gonna go into on Saturday for Sabbath service. But tonight, I just wanted to hone in on something because as we was doing Sabbath service, I noticed something, and I wanted to kind of I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of hone in on it. So again, this is a language-based class, so it's important for us to understand the language, the Hebrew language. You know what I mean? So we teach the Hebrew so that when we read the Bible, we can understand certain things. Like the Christian church, the reason why the Christian church doesn't understand the Bible is because they don't understand a big reason, other than that, the fact that they're just blatant snake. But other than that, a big reason why the Christian church doesn't understand the Bible is because they don't understand the language. So they read things like Gentiles. They'll read Gentiles in the New Testament and they'll think, oh, Gentiles mean other nations. So when you read in Galatians, the 8th chapter and the 23rd verse, or what is it? I can't remember, 3 and 28, where it says neither Greek nor Jew. They think neither Greek nor Jew it means God loves everybody. I saw another heathen say Romans 13 and 10 means God loves everybody. It says something similar to Galatians, the one I just paraphrased. But the reason why your Christian church and Christian pastors don't understand when it says Greek nor Jew, or when it says like another one, John 3:16, where it says whosoever. You know what I mean? I believe Romans 13 says something similar. All that believe on the Most High or Christ or whatever shall be saved. The reason why the Christian church sees things like that, and they think that means everybody, is because they don't understand the language. You know what I mean? Which is why that's an easy cut. You know what I mean? You go to Galatians, the one that I just paraphrased, neither Greek nor Jew, or where it says all that call on the Most High shall be saved. It's an easy cut. But if you go Because if you go into the Zondervan Bible Dictionary and look up the definition of Gentile, or you look up the definition of Helen, it'll tell you that it typically means other nation, or it usually means another nation, which implies that it could mean uh Israel. If you look up Helen, it'll tell you that Helen means a Jew that made Greek their language and culture. You know what I mean? So when you see neither Greek nor Jew, you'll know that that means the Jews were the ones that lived in the land, and the Greeks were the Jews that made, or the Greeks or the Hellen in context will be the ones that made Greek their language. But again, to bring it full circle, that all comes with learning the language. You know what I mean? So that's why we do this class every week. That's why it's so important for us to lock in. You know what I mean? And have the resources for you to understand it. Because for you to break that down, or for you to be able to not get tripped up when a Christian, because a Christian's always going to try to convince you what? A Christian's going to always try to convince you that God loves everybody and that you wrong for loving your people. You know what I mean? So for you not to get tripped up with things like that, it's important to understand this language. It's important for you to have the resources. It's important for you to have the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. It's important for you to be able to go into Bible Hub like we're about to go into tonight. It's important for you to have those resources. All right. But with that being said, we're gonna lock you. We go into Bible Hub. So with that being said, we're gonna go into uh Bible Hub. We're gonna go into Genesis, the 20th chapter. Before I go into it, I want to explain why. Uh, as I enlarge my screen. So as you can probably see, I have the board, the board that we have in class shared on the screen, right? The reason why was Slocky, before I get started, is there any you got any questions, sis, before I get started into the okay, no sweat. All right. As you can see, I got the board shared on the screen. The reason why I have that there is because uh that's a concept that we went over a couple weeks ago, past tense, and how to conjugate a verb using past tense, right? Lock you. But that's something we went over. That's something that we should probably that's what we should at this point have in our notes. If not, now is your opportunity. So if you don't have it in your notes, I recommend brothers and sisters to go ahead and just write it down so that when you see these concepts, uh when we're reading through the Hebrew, you can recognize them. Which is why, you know what I mean, which is what we're gonna go over tonight. Because like it. As I go to the book, chapter, and verse. So what I noticed is we went over that concept a couple weeks ago. And then so we went over when we taught that concept in class, we went over it, but the following week, like I think the next day, like Lashawan Qadash is typically on Friday, and then Saturday is Sabbath service. So Friday night, Lashawan Qadash, and then Sabbath service. Saturday we read through the Hebrew and apply what we learned in Lashawan Qadash. But what I noticed is a lot of brothers didn't recognize, you know what I mean, this concept, even though we went over it the week before, right? Please go ahead. Yeah. It's a box, middle shelf on the far left hand side. What's it? Come on, please. Yeah, do you think? But uh, let me just find it. But the reason why I want to go into this is because again, you know what I mean, brothers, after we went over this concept, we had saw it literally the next day or maybe a week after, and we wasn't able to recognize the concept. The point of going over these concepts is for us to be able to read it in Bible Hub and to be able to recognize it. All right. So, you know what I mean? If you just get if you just learn a concept, it might take a little bit of time for you to you know what I mean, be able to recognize and apply the concept That's just how learning works. You know what I mean? You learn something and then you practice it over and over until you get it, until it becomes part of you. All right. But that's what this is for. This class, Lord willing, you know what I mean? This will make this part of brother. You know what I mean? For where we'll see these things like we'll see these things and it'll become, you know what I mean, part of it. Part you know what I mean, part of our understanding of the life of God. Like, let me go through it. So we're gonna go to Genesis, the 20th chapter, and let me see. He give me. Okay, let's start at let's start at verse 15. Genesis 28 and verse 15. Right. All right. So we go to Bible Hub on the laptop before we go forward. All right, so the board been shared for quite a little bit. So if you ain't got it by now, you can go ahead and rewind it, take a screenshot, write it down, whatever you got to do. Uh, but I just wanna, I'm gonna go ahead and share Bible Hub now. All right, share Bible Hub, and we gonna look at a couple of these concepts, and I'm gonna break them down as we go. We're gonna break it down line by line, and then once we get to the concept that I want to hone in on, then I'm we'll go from there. All right. So we read it in English real quick. 28 and verse 15. The book of Genesis, chapter 28 and verse 15 in the English. And behold, I am with thee and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again unto this land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken of thee. All right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, let's see what verse. We can go to verse 20 real quick. All right. So we're gonna stay on 15, right? Context. All right, so this is talking about let me see. So this is basically this is Isaac charging Jacob, right? So he's telling Jacob to not, you know what I mean, to basically to keep the traditions of his forefathers. So in our customs, it's customary for us to only deal with to have children with somebody of our own nation. Like it says in Deuteronomy chapter 7, it says we should not make marriages with these other nations. So you should only make marriages, which sex is marriage. So you should only sleep with another a man or woman of the same nation of you. So if you're a black, Hispanic, or Native American, uh, you should only sleep with another black, Hispanic, or Native American man. You know what I mean? That's our tradition. So if you're a black man, those are the options you got to choose from. So if you're a black man or woman, you can only sleep with another black, Hispanic, or Native American. You know what I mean? Those are the options you got to choose from. That's the tradition that we have, right? So that's what we see right here. So Jacob, or it's like Isaac, Isaac is telling Jacob to go to the people of your, you know what I mean, go to your people, go to the, you know what I mean, go to the people like you and find you a wife. I mean, as is tradition, right? Salakia. So that just to give a little context, all right. So I'm gonna read it in so in English, verse 15, it says, "And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again unto this land. For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken uh, to thee of." Well, let me read verse 14. "And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and all thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed." So this is the same thing that the Most High said to Abraham, right? And this is he's passing the same blessing down through the bloodline. So he said the same thing to Abraham, he said the same thing to Isaac, and now he's saying it to Jacob, right? And he's saying, verse 15, "And behold, I am with thee and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land." All right, this is the part that I want brothers and sisters to focus on, because remember, what I got on the board is how to conjugate a verb in past tense. All right, so we're going to be focusing on past tense and seeing it in live practical application. All right, how it's being applied in the scriptures. I mean, everything that we teach at the ISUPK comes out of the scriptures. You know what I mean? So I just want brothers to be able to see it and recognize it. So when we see it, we're not confused. All right. So it says, "For I will, so I will not leave thee until I have done." So where it says "I have done" implies past tense. "Until I have done that which I have spoken." So I have done, I have spoken, those things imply past tense. So because of that, we're gonna see some of these concepts that we got on the board. All right. So we're gonna go into the Hebrew, and I'm gonna read it through, and then I'm gonna go back, comb through it, break it down, and then we're gonna go from there. All right. So Book of Genesis. If you don't have Bible Hub, what is it? Like, let me make sure. Bible Hub, like, Bible Hub. You don't have it, go to the App Store whether you got iPhone or Apple, or you can just go on online and then go to Bible Hub. We're gonna be in Genesis 20th chapter, 15th verse. All right. So it's Book of Genesis, chapter 28, verse 15 in the Hebrew. Wahana Anyaka Imaka Washamar Thayaka. That's like it. Wa Shamaratyaka Bakal Ashar the Lot Waha Waha Shabatyaka Al Ha Adama Hazah Haya La'a La'a A I Dabka I Ashar I say I Shayafya like I Shaya A Ashar the bar Thaya Laka. All right. There was a couple points where exaggerated and exaggerated some point. Because that's gonna be what we're gonna hone in on. But I'm gonna go back, break it down line by line. So in the English, so it says, "And behold, I am with thee and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again unto this land. For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of. All right. So the Hebrew says wa hana, right? Now again, like I just to give a backdrop, let me enlarge the screen. Uh, so like I talked about before, understand if you want to understand the Hebrew, uh the Hebrew is just a bunch of concepts, right? So the if you understand these concepts that we go over in class, you're gonna have a easier time understanding the Hebrew. So uh I usually keep the notes on the board. Just a little review. Let me see if I can share this tab. So as you can see on the board, the top board, you see in the corner over here says the 4 steps, right? To read the Hebrew. Uh, these 4 steps in no particular order, right? It's just each phrase that we're gonna read tonight is gonna be made up of a root word, a preposition, a possessive, and a tense. There's no particular order, and it's not necessarily gonna be every single one, but each phrase that we're gonna read is gonna have a combination of any of these concepts. All right. So to go back to the first phrase, right? We go back to go back to the first phrase. Let me highlight it as well so we can follow along. Wahana, right? It contains these a couple of these 4 steps, right? Those are gonna be the 4 main concepts that you're gonna want to understand. A root word, a preposition, a possessive, and a tense. Your root word or your root word is pretty much gonna be the base of the phrase. It's gonna be the base, right? And then your prepositions, which we got down, Slacky, please, you mind moving that board, that little board. But so you got your root word, and your prepositions are going to be a character that's attached to the beginning of your root word. So it's gonna be one of those characters, Aba, Gada, Hawaza, Kata, Yaka, La, Mana, Sa'a, Patazakwa, Rashata. Any of those characters that you see on that list is going to be attached to the beginning of a root word to indicate a preposition. To me, like you see I, or I am, ba, and on, da, do or make, ha, the, wa, and, ya, he, his, or it, ka, like or as, la, to or for, ma, of or from, sha, which or pertaining to, and tha, thou or thee. Right? And then your possessives are going to be those a character, those same characters, but attached to the end of a root word, indicating possession, right? So ya, me or my, ka, you or your, wa, he, his or it, ha, her, nawa, our, come, your, con, your, slaki, come is your masculine, con is your in a feminine tense, ma is there, and na, or ma is there in the masculine, na is there in the feminine, right? And then your tenses, right? Which is what we're gonna go over this. So past tense, right? It's gonna be one of your tenses. So we already familiar with the y in the middle of a word or in the middle of a root word. Y in the middle. It's not on the board, but it's just something that we go over constantly. So for to make room, I had to erase it. But y in the middle means doing, or like in English, ing, right? It's like adding ing to a root word. Let's see. You got your feminization tense, you got your servile tense, you got plural, which is yum at the end typically. It could be other things, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, just for review purposes. But so those are gonna be your 4 steps to understand phrases, right? This is no different, right? So in Bible Hub, right? The wa hana, right? Same concept. So the root word, right? what I find easiest to be able to work through this is to identify the root word first. It depends on, you know what I mean, what you're looking at. Sometimes it's uh sometimes you'll be able to identify prepositions and possessives right offhand, tenses and all of that. But from a beginner standpoint, it's easiest to identify the root word first. Because then you can identify the root word and then attach the other thing to be able to understand them like that. All right. So wahana, like we got highlighted on the screen, right? So hana is the root word, right? Again, understanding the Hebrew is to understand concept. So this is a concept that we went over months ago, weeks ago. You know what I mean? We reviewed it several times. Hana is a root word that means behold, right? It's one of the pictographs. You know what I mean? It's one of the words that's associated with the pictographs. The Hebrew is a pictographical language. So each character's Abba, Gada, Ha, Waza is associated with a word or a pictograph or picture, right? So Hana is associated with the Ha character, which is pretty much a hand. You know what I mean? It's like a hand beholding something, right? So Hana means to behold, right? Or to make it modern, to draw somebody's attention, like you saying, look at this, like peep this. You know what I mean? How we talk now. But that's what Hana means. You read it in the Hebrew. And then you add a wa to the beginning of it, like we read it in this phrase right here. It's a preposition attached to a root word. So Hana would be the root word. Wa would be a preposition meaning and. So and behold. And if you're following along in Bible Hub, you can see in the red underneath it'll have the English translation. So the English translation underneath says and behold. Or actually it's on the board. It's on the or it's like on the TV screen rather. So this is the Hebrew right here, and then underneath is the English. So it says and behold, wahana and behold, or and look at this, or and peep this. Right? That's the translated in modern English. And ankaya, like it. So this is a combination of anya and kaya, right? So anya means I, and then kaya means to you, right? So ankaya, right? Like I'm I'm a ka, right? Next phrase, like let me go back to the make sure so the root word will be I'm. I and ma. I'm just means let's go to concordance. With, right? If you're following along on Bible Hub, if you don't know a root word, or if you don't understand a phrase, if you're confused, the easiest way to be able to understand it is to click on the concordance code, right? You click this code right here, and it'll separate the root word from the phrase. Like I was saying earlier, uh, talking about the four steps. The root word, if you're able to identify the root word, then you could attach your preposition, possessives, and tenses to it, and be able to understand what's being said. So if you read it in Bible Hub, it's just going to say the full phrase. But if you click the concordance code, it's going to separate the root word from the other things that I just mentioned, the preposition, possessive, and tense. All right. So you click on that, it's going to give you I'm, which means with. And then now you know since I'm is the root word, now you know that this at the end attached to the root word is a possessive. And as you can see on the board down there, ka as a possessive or at the end of a root word means you or yours. So I'm ka means with you, right? Right. Next phrase, wa. And this is where understanding these four steps is gonna again, we've been using the same method, looking at those four steps, looking at your root word, identify your root word, your prepositions, possessives, and tenses, if any. Right. Now this is a little bit of a longer phrase, but it's the same concept. Right. And this is how simple and easy the Hebrew is. It could be a little intimidating at first, because it's a language that's been taken away from us, so we're not quite familiar with it like we are with English or Spanish or Patois or Creole or whatever we spoke before. But it's the same thing. It's just as easy. All right. So wa shemarath yaka, right? That's how you'll pronounce it. Wa shemarath yaka. All right. So let's do it like this. So we click on this concordance code right here. It's going to separate it. So the root word is shamar, right? Shamar, which means to keep, to watch, or preserve. All right. So wa. So now, okay, so now all you got to do is find the root word. You click that concordance code, it gives you the root word. So now you got to just find that same root word within this phrase. So I'm gonna highlight the root word, shamar. So now you know everything else is something that's attached to the root word to to give it context, right? So let's start with this wa at the beginning, right? So just like the first phrase, that wa at the beginning be uh and so like I don't know why that took me so long. And so and watch. So wa shamar. So we know that this wa at the beginning means and. So now we can move on to this tha, right? This tha, this tha is a servile tense, right? You see a tha at the end of a root word typically means servile, right? So wa shamara, right? So in the service of watching, right? And this is the difference between, you know what I mean, your Christian churches or your fake Israelite groups, or you know what I mean, uh you go to your slavery, which is what we call a job, because we're not supposed to be working for no other nation. So you working for another nation, that's slavery. We all gotta work for this wicked nation. So we in slavery. But you go to your slavery or your job, or you go to the military, you go to the police force, uh you working for somebody, you as a you're serving them. But if somebody's a leader, they're supposed to serve you. You know what I mean? Ultimately, that's the point of somebody being a leader. All right. This is the Most High talking to Jacob, and he's saying, "This is what I'll do for you." He's talking about what he'll do for Jacob. You know what I mean? He's going to watch over. He's going to watch over Jacob and his family. You know what I mean? And that's what, you know what I mean. As you get rank, as you get, you know what I mean, as you grow, as you come into the truth, remember that as you get more understanding, uh as you get more understanding, as you get more knowledge, as you get more rank and responsibility, you got to remember that your job is to serve your people. You know what I mean? But that's what this style means, like a long story short. So So that's what this thought attached to Shemar means. It's the service of watching, right? It's a servile tense attached to a root word. And then Yaka, right? That Yah, as you can see on that on the board, the Yah, it typically means me or my, or it can act as a buffer between a possessive and a root word. So you might see that's you'll see that a lot, like in the Lord's Prayer, in that portion, like I always use as an example, uh, where it says, "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." The Hebrew is wasalak. I believe it's wasalak Yanawa. Kasa Kawawathawa, Kasa Laknawa, Kawawathianawa. Uh that's like in that portion of the Lord's Prayer, you see that Yah in between the possessors. And it's you sometimes you'll see it, sometimes you won't. But uh that's how that Yah act. So where it says Salak Yanawa, that's forgive us. The wa as a possessive means we or us or our, right? That Yah in between the root word and the preposition, or it's like the possessive, is just to help make the sentence or the phrase flow better. All right. So it's a buffer between the root word and the possess or the possessive. And that's what you see here. All right. And then ka is the actual possessive. So ya, I know it could, a lot of brothers and sisters could get confused. You see that ya and you think it's a possessive. It's just a buffer, right? In between. The ka is the possessive, right? The ka at the end. Right? So you read it all together. Wa Shamarath right? The Wa and Shamar is the watch. Shamarath is the service of watching. Yaka, you. Yaka means you, right? Or Ka is the possessive that means you. Ya is the buffer, right? It will be the same thing if it said Wa Shamarath. It will be the same thing without the buffer. But the buffer, again, the ya in the middle is to help it flow a little better. All right. Call. I want to move through this a little bit, just so I can get to the point, right? So, but call in all. Call is what's it called? A root word that means all. Ba means in or on as a preposition, as you can see on the board. All right. Ashar, uh, means that. All right. In the English, it says wherever, but you read it or you read it in the Hebrew, bakal, so like bakal, ashar, salak. In the English, it says in all wherever you go. If you replace this with that, if you replace wherever with that, it still says the same thing. In all that you go, you know what I mean? Bakal, ashar, salak. All right. Ta means thou or thee. Lak means to go. All right. Waha, Waha Shabbathyaka. All right, same concept. Wa means and, ha, ga, Shabbat means to rest or return. Yaka means you, and will bring you back, or and all right, and to bring you back, or and to return, because this is the Lord telling Jacob to you know what I mean, to come back to the land that he gave to his forefathers, you know what I mean, to raise his family, which you'll see in later chapters. I believe we went over the Sabbath service. We're gonna go a little bit more this Saturday. But Jacob, I believe in verse 30, between 30 and 32, he's getting his family together and he's going back to his land like he was commanded by the Most High. All right. Waha Shabbat Yakub. All right. All is a root word that means two, right? We see it a lot. If you're a Sabbath service, you'll see it a lot, or you'll hear it a lot if you're in the audience. Yes, in you in Lashawan Qadash class, you'll be able to recognize this a lot. Ha Adama. Ha is a preposition that means the. Adama means land, right? Or earth, or not earth, land, more specifically. Click on this concordance code, it'll give you ground or land. That was the word I was looking for, ground. All right. To the ground, right? Hazah, right? Hazah means this, right? Look it up. Lucky. Okay, this is a new word. Za'ah. Hereby, likewise, same, she, so, much, such, the, that. All right. Ya is a root word to be spore. La'ah means no or not, or to negate something. Ah, Izabka, right? Click on that root word. Izab means to leave, all right? Right? So Izab is the root word. So now you know that what's attached to it at the beginning is a preposition because you know prepositions come before a root word. And then you know what's attached after the root word is a possessive because the possessives come after the root word. All right. So Izab, ka, right? And as before we break it down, I just want to note that this doesn't have the buffer. Again, like we talked about before, it's not gonna always have a buffer, but either way, whether it has the buffer or not, it's saying the same thing. It's just put there depending on whether it'll help the sentence flow better. All right. So Izab ka. So Izab means to leave. Uh is a preposition that means I, right? Izab means leave, and then ka means you. So I leave you, right? Like I said before, this la'ah means no or not or to negate something. So that la'ah being there negates this following sentence. So it says, I will leave you. The previous phrase says la'ah. So it says la'ah azabka. So not I will leave you. So it negates. So it's saying the opposite. So it's saying I will not. That's how you would say I will not leave you. So la'a'izabka, not I will leave you. So or I will not leave you. I'd until ashar that I'm, which is with Salakia. And this is the part that I want to hone in on, right? So I have done. Now we're getting to past tense, all right? So Aisha is how you say do in the Hebrew. Aisha. Aisha. All right. Yah is how you would say be or by, right? So my doing, right? And then what do you see at the end? The yeah, right? Let me share my screen real quick on the board. You look at the board, you see at the top how you would conjugate a root word uh meaning past tense from the perspective of me or myself, I, right? Because remember, this is the Lord talking to Jacob. You conjugate a verb using the perspective of myself, saying me or my or myself. You will put a the at the end, as you can see in the parentheses in red at the end, right? The meaning me or mine or selected. But that's how you'll conjugate it if you were saying me or my past tense. I will do this or I will do that. Or I have done this or I have done that, like you see here, like it says in English, I have done, right? The root word is Aisha, right? So that's the root word we're conjugating. You can see on the board, the root word we practiced with was Ra'ah, which means see. So if you want to say I will see, or Salakia, if you want to say I have seen or I saw, you would say Ra'ataya. I saw. Anya Ra'ataya. I saw. Right? So this is no different. So you see in the Hebrew it says I have done, past tense, right? So do is Aisha, and then the past tense conjugation to be to say I did or I have done would be the ya. So to say I have done would be Aisha the ya or Aisha ya the ya. And Ath is just the connector between two. It's basically how you would connect two thoughts or two phrases or two subject with subject with what the subject is doing. So when you see if you click on the concordance code as we've gone over in the past, it'll say untranslatable mark of the accusative case. So basically, it doesn't have not a definition per se, but when you see it, it's just a word or it's just a phrase that's used to connect two things. So a subject or a person to what it's doing, right? And then ashar means that or what or which, right? And then we got the same thing right here. So the bar, the ya, right? So this is literally the same thing. Lock it. Let me switch back over. So you see on the in the Hebrew, the bar, the ya, right? The bar is a root word that means to speak or to say. You click on the concordance code, it's going to say the same thing, right? To speak. The bar, the root word that we use often, that we see often, we should be pretty familiar with. Or means to speak or to say, or it's like it to speak rather. To say is a bar, but the bar is to speak, right? But now we're saying in past tense, so spoken, right? I have spoken, right? So you would conjugate it the same way that we did the previous one. So the bar, so to say I have spoken, it will be anya, which is to say I, anya, the bar, the ya, right? As you can see again on the board. Anya, the bar, the ya. So anya, the bar, the ya. Right? So that's that when you see that the ya at the end, you can identify how to pronounce that and what that means based on the context. So when you see a past tense context, so when you read it in English, we're pretty familiar with the English, right? So when you see I have spoken, you know that that's talking about past tense. I spoke, past tense, in the past. All right. So when you see that, you know that we're talking about past tense. So now you know you need to go into your, your past tense note. You need to go into your past tense bag and remember what you was taught so that you can apply it when you see it, right? And then laka, last but not least, la means to as a preposition, and then ka as a possessive means you. So laka means to you. All right. So just to reiterate, uh, everything that we broke down tonight, uh, is just using those same concepts, right? Those same concepts that we use over and over and over again, right? So your preposition, understanding your preposition, your possessors that we go over, we've been going over for months, for the past couple years now. Uh, we're always going to use those prepositions and possessors. Those are going to be your bread and butter, all right? And then those four steps is going to be also your bread and butter. That's going to be how you understand phrases. So your root word, that's how you're going to build your vocabulary. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of words like, you know what I mean? I guarantee you in the English, you don't know every single root word in the English. You don't know every single word in the English. You're still learning words to this day in the English. Even though you've been speaking English for 20, 30, 40 years, you don't know every single word in the English or Spanish or whatever your first language is, right? So same with the Hebrew. You know what I mean? But the point is, you're going to want to understand your root word. And if you click the concordance code, it's just going to give you the root word. And that's how you're going to build your vocabulary. And then after that, you identify your prepositions and possessives, which we just went over. And then you go into your tenses, which we also just went over, one of them, which was past tense. All right. But I want brothers and sisters to be able to identify past tense, especially because I see a lot of brothers and sisters kind of tripping over it and stumbling, especially brothers who read it in the Hebrew on Saturday. We'll see these concepts, even though we just went over it, we'll see them and still be tripped up over it because we're not quite familiar with it. And that's fine. But we just got to put the work in and build up to the point where we are familiar with it. And now we can just add that to our belt. Like before, we wasn't familiar with prepositions, possessives, and things that are simple to it. You know what I mean? Just like English, we wasn't familiar with it. You know what I mean? We wasn't familiar with the language when we was, you know, toddlers. But now, as we learned the language, as we practiced it, as we went through school, we got familiar with it, and now it's easy to us. Same with the Hebrew, but we just got to put that effort in. All right. With that, let's start any questions. Any questions in the room before we close out? Got any questions? Sis? Okay. All right. With that, we're gonna go ahead and end class right there. Make sure you you know what I mean, make sure you like go to ISUPK Killeen on all your social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or X now, uh Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to all the channels. So you know what I mean? So all our brothers, you know what I mean? All our brothers and sisters could get this understanding and knowledge and not be beguiled. You know what I mean? It's important for brothers and sisters to share the home of the truth so that brothers can get the truth. Brothers and sisters can get the truth from the source because there's a lot of liars out here. It's a lot of these other Israelite groups, these fake Israelite groups who want to start their own thing and do their own thing. And you know what I mean? Because they deviated from the foundation of where it all began, they become like the Christian church. You know what I mean? Where they start to, you know what I mean? They start to teach their own doctrine. That's not according to our culture. They start to take things out of our culture. They start to add things to our culture. You know what I mean? So it's important for brothers and sisters to share the home of the truth, so the brothers and sisters who are sincere can get it from the source rather than being, you know what I mean, being led to the slaughterhouse, which would be these other, you know, these liars, these fake Israelites. All right. But like, share, subscribe, you know what I mean? Make sure you can also, if you notice on the screen, you got the what's the thing called? Block here. I feel old. What's up? No, but the water for that. Also, QR code, the water. Make sure you could scan the QR code as well. You know what I mean? If you miss class, I know when I first came to Truth, I would just watch old classes. I would just watch old classes over and over, just try to catch up. You know what I mean? So if you watching this class, by the time it goes up, it won't. By the time it'll be live. I don't know how to even word it, but a lot of times when we watch old classes, by the time you see it, it'll be like days ago. So you won't get a live response. But if you scan that or you scan that QR code, you can be a part of our WhatsApp chat, ask your questions there. And brothers and you know what I mean, brothers will be able to answer your questions there, be able to communicate with you there. We can get you connected with the nearest zone or school to you there. And it's 24/7. So if you got a question at 4 in the morning, like I do all the time, you know what I mean, you can go to that WhatsApp chat and ask your questions there. You know what I mean? Also, like the brother said, we got the Feast of Dedication or Hanukkah coming up in December. You know what I mean? So I mean, let's go ahead and prepare for that. You know what I mean? We got high holy days. You know what I mean? We got high holy days and feast days, holy convocations in the Bible. You know what I mean? That actually belong to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You know what I mean? We got to go celebrate Christmas. We got to go celebrate Halloween, which is, you know what I mean? It's really nonsense. You know what I mean? We got to go do Thanksgiving. We got high holy days that we could keep where we could, you know what I mean? Which is exclusive to us. You know what I mean? It pertains to us. These other holidays pertain to our oppressors. So for us to be able to feel like we're at home celebrating Christmas or Thanksgiving or Halloween, we gotta pretend that we're an oppressor, and we can't relate to that. But these high holy days in the Bible, you know what I mean? We can relate to that. So just be on the lookout for that. I believe it's December 24th. So it's right around the corner. All right. So with that, say I vaju, which means to stand. We'll give a courtesy salute to the brothers. The visual Bible Shabbat. Ibajim, Barak, Yahweh Shiv Yahweh Shabrak, Yad Matah, Sar, Slack this that. Sar, we're going to turn to face the sisters. We'll courtesy salute to the sisters. The visual Bible Shabbat. Ibajim, Barak, Yahweh Shamar, Latah, Ba Shiv Yahweh Shab. You know, familiar with the salute. Okay, that's it. So repeat after me. Yahweh, Shamar, Alatah, Bahashir, Yahweh Shah. So what we just said was the Most High, which is Yahweh. That's his name. Yahweh, watch over you, in the name of Christ or Yahweh Shah, as we just said. All right. Yajibata, which means hands down, class of speech.